the best way to identify what a good blockchain is to invest in isn't to be like, oh, this has better tech and this has better tech, and this will get you in a big trap. You shouldn't be anything. Okay, it doesn't matter. Don't be attached to these things. They're just vehicles to make money in. The simplest thing to do for layer ones is to go to a website called DeFiLlama.com, which is a great website, and use this website to identify the volumes, transactions, and the total value locked on any individual chain. Ultimately, it could be the best product in the world, but if no one's using it, then you don't want to be invested in it. You want to be invested in projects that people are using.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel today. I'm here with Peter from House of Crypto. How you doing, man?
Nice to meet you, man. How you doing? You well?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Do you mind to give us an intro and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Okay, so my name is Peter. I'm the founder of the House of Crypto, a channel that's been around for, I think, around the last three and a half years, launching at the top of the last bull market. Recently started another channel called the School of Crypto. And my kind of focus is towards bringing a level playing field across crypto, trying to teach other people how to kind of make the most of the crypto opportunity that's in front of us, and teach different skills, tips and tricks, that kind of thing. Working with a friend in Beijing a few years ago who introduced me to another friend of his, and he was a lawyer and was looking to investigate a particular crypto company, of which I won't name, and they wanted to have another person to come and investigate a crypto company. So I was posing as like a business development manager to go and interview a company. And I had to learn about cryptocurrency to give a presentation in the interview that I was supposed to be getting. And yeah, I think I was like, oh, well, okay, this is an interesting thing. They paid me for this particular job. I just took that money and shoved it in Bitcoin at like $9,000. And then Bitcoin suddenly went up to like 17,000 within a couple of months, probably just a good entry into the market. And I was like, wow, I need to make more money to put into crypto. Started to look at other things, got into YouTube. I've been previously in trading. I'd been in like e-commerce and all the kind of, usual online entrepreneurship things. But yeah, crypto fit me really well. And then YouTube kind of grew around it as well.
Amazing. Thank you for this. And I mean, you mentioned Bitcoin at $9,000, so that was a while back. So where do you think we are now in the cycle? Is it too late to jump in? Do you think we're going to top up at the end of the year? Do you think we're going to go into 2025?
The market, I'm looking at it today, 67,000 approximately right now, Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been in this 7-month long trend, like sort of trending downwards a little bit. Now, typically at the top of a bull market, which some people out there are saying we've already had, you tend to see a spike up and a spike down very, very quickly. In about a few weeks after that bull market top, you'll see a 50 to 60% collapse. We haven't seen that in Bitcoin. And there's a very good reason why we haven't seen it. We've seen a lot of liquidity starting to arrive in the market. And if you actually go and understand behind what's driving crypto markets, it's the global monetary supply, the M2 money supply, which is basically liquidity. And this has been altered by things like interest rates. It's being changed by things like inflation. And right now, going in towards the US election, we're going to have interest rate cuts. We've already had one cut. We're about to have another one on the 8th of November, I'd imagine. You've seen China cutting interest rates and pumping liquidity into the markets. So every 4 years, we go through a 2-year kind of pump cycle and then a 2-year kind of down cycle. My belief that we are somewhere in the middle of the cycle. I think we came up a bit too hard and a bit too early, probably because of the Bitcoin ETFs getting a bit too much excitement early on. So no, I don't think it's too late, but I think that maybe with the Bitcoin dominance sitting as high as it's sitting, that you have a better bet betting in the kind of altcoin arena, maybe than pushing it in directly to Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin holds lower risk, but then lower reward. I think maybe upside, I have it somewhere around 50%, 55%, maybe a little bit higher. But that's not, not the kind of gains that people come to crypto for, right?
Every cycle, there is something new, right? So this time, like you said so well, first time before the halving, all-time high, never happened before. First time we have the ETFs into it. Do you have a bag that you use to DCA out? Because I spoke with a lot of people and some people saying I'm all out. Like whenever price reaches some points, it could be 80, 90, over 100, I'm going to start DCA out. So dollar cost averaging out. I have other people on the podcast. They said, no, I will never sell anything. What's your strategy here? Are you going to deploy some Bitcoin for stablecoin or fiat?
One of the biggest problems with crypto is how quickly you can make money. And it gives you this kind of false sense of confidence. Like, I am the best trader that there is because I made, a couple of $100 this week and I only put in $50. That is a problem because at some point the markets will turn around on you and you don't really know when they're going to turn around. So there's a few things that I think are worth understanding. Firstly is what drives the market, which we've already talked about. And then also understanding kind of different things that are kind of measures of where the market is at. Those might be how many people are watching YouTube videos, not necessarily mine, but all of the YouTube videos. That might be the fear and greed index. That might be where Coinbase and Binance rank on Apple or the App Store, because I know when Coinbase and Binance are number one on the App Store, is typically at the top of the market. But whenever you see the market becoming very hot and people are like, is it too late to get into this? Is it too late to get into this? It's been running up in consecutive weeks. It's typically time that maybe you should start to de-risk out. Now, I think what lots of people do is they go into the least risky assets first, like Bitcoin, etc., and they start to move more into the riskier and riskier assets as time goes on. Now, this can be all right, but a problem with this, I think, is if you end up at the top of the market in the riskiest of assets, then you will get the biggest burns, when actually you should be maybe starting to DCA out. And typically, like you say, a good way to DCA out is either directly into a stable coin like a USDT or USDC, but if you still want exposure to the market volatility, is to move into Bitcoin. So, for example, recently we saw in March the 11th, we saw Bitcoin pulling back. I think the worst Bitcoin pullback was about 36%, which sounds like a lot, but compared to some of the altcoins that are down like 95%, it's a much better position to be in. So bigger market caps give you more stability, make your money in the small caps. If I make a quick like 3 or 4x and it's in a small cap coin and the rest of the market's not pumping, then I'll try and take money and put it back into the stable coin or into a kind of a bigger market cap coin that looks strong. So yeah, over time, have an idea of how much you want to make from this bull market, make it realistic. Something like a 10 to 15x is pretty good returns for most people in the world. Should be for you. And yeah, if you start to get towards that, I would say pull 80-90% of your money out, and then you can leave a little bit back in there. And you might, if you lose that 10%, you might be unhappy about it, but you're going to be far happier than if you'd lost a lot.
I love having also multiple metrics, and I've done all sorts of mistakes. You name it, I've done it. Through the years, my strategy has changed completely. Like now I'm in a point where I think this is going to be my last cycle where I play with altcoins in general. I mean, maybe a few, but like super a few selected. And I like to stay in Bitcoin. I don't even try, to be honest, to play the market much. I mean, I'll have probably like a small bag. I'll try to sell for a little bit of cash to pay, whatever, petrol and my holidays, dinners, whatever, rent, this kind of stuff. But I'm fully plugged into the Bitcoin standard. And I understand there is a quote loss because you can play the market. You can sell when we go up and rebuy when we go down. But to be honest, this thing goes 50% compound a year interest. For me, it's good enough. I have to do literally absolutely nothing besides, having a system to store my Bitcoin. And you mentioned altcoins, and I wonder, do you have your hands into any in particular you like?
I hold a lot of different altcoins. I made recently a portfolio video worth checking out, but I think it's very important to kind of note when I personally am trading in crypto, I'm spending like every single day looking into crypto, right? So I have a pretty like close eye on what I think is happening in the market. Sometimes I'm not always correct, but by paying so much attention to it all the time, I realize how difficult it must be for so many people, and particularly if you've got too many coins. So I personally hold a lot of coins, but I spend a lot of time looking at them. I would advise people to maybe not hold such a broad spectrum in the market. I think that there's a few areas worth paying attention to. Now, I know meme coins have been running very hot recently, and typically I advise, and this is going to be an unpopular thing to say, but to move your attention away from the areas that are getting all the attention. Because when an area is already getting all the attention, it means that there's not that many more people coming into the space, and it means that that area is more likely to come down. Meme coins, I think, will be closer to that point than maybe some other areas of the market. Gaming, I think, is a very interesting and key sector to pay attention to. Particularly recently, we've had a new game called Off the Grid launch, bringing I don't know what the record numbers, like millions of users onto Avalanche in just the first few days. Very exciting for what this means for crypto gaming in general. But if you're not sure about which games, I go for larger ecosystem kind of projects. Superverse is one, backed by, Elliot Trade's the founder, basically a gaming ecosystem token, and also BeamX. a very interesting one as well, because it's basically a platform for gaming projects to be able to build on. If you want to go down towards games, individual games and things like that, look for games that are actually high quality, playable games. And if you find one that goes mainstream in the way that Off the Grid is going mainstream right now, I think you can find yourself a very good winner. Gaming is also an easier one to understand because many of us have played video games at some point in our life, and we can understand what a good video game looks like. AI coins, obviously, right now, AI has been quiet, but guys, it's inevitable that AI is going to be an ecosystem to be paying attention to. Individual coins and AI are like AIOZ, kind of AI deep in crossover, AOS, whatever you want to call it. Talbotens has also looked very strong every time AI markets have looked pretty good. Deep in, projects like Aether, Cash, Render looking very good right now. Helium even, and Peak Network, which is launching soon. Real world assets. Now there's some big ones like Ondo and Mantra, which are great projects and have been doing really well. But I've been kind of focusing my attention to some of the smaller cap ones, like Maple Finance and Clearpool. And the reason for that is they have similarly small market caps, but they have huge total value locks. Lots of people are actively using these coins. This makes for a good kind of bet, in my opinion.
I was with Elliot Trades in Singapore. We shared a table watching Eric fighting for the crown. Eric Crown, by the way. Shout out to Eric and Elliot. And I agree. I think games is so easy to understand, especially when there is already a market. Like people are buying things with dollars. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I completely agree. We just need some sort of a project that's going to show how it's done, because so far it's been incredibly complicated. Immutable is doing a good job with the passport. So there is a lot happening in the area. I store my money into Bitcoin, but I cannot deny the fact that there is a market out there. And all the things you just mentioned, RWA, I mean, Chainlink is going to do some fantastic things, I think. I'm big bull in Chainlink. All the projects you name, Ondo is doing great, RWA. There is so much going on. There's many games. And those chains like Solana, Avax, they're going to come and even I think Ethereum, I know it sounds controversial these days, but I'm bullish on it for what it's worth. And they're going to come in and disrupt everything. It's just early. So I don't think you can. I mean, you can, of course, do whatever you want. There is so many ways to play the market. You can be an altcoiner only. You can be only in Bitcoin. You have to do whatever you like, of course. But talking to people like you, I mean, I couldn't agree more with all the things you mentioned. AI, of course, is going to be a no-brainer. How do you feel about SocialFi? Because I think social media is going through a transformation. I mean, X, of course, has been purchased by Elon Musk, and he's playing with Doge. As you know, something is going to happen at some point with Doge and X, I think. Do you think we'll see a SocialFi moment where people are going to be rewarded with token?
Ton and the Ton ecosystem has already sort of started to introduce this concept. Hamster Combat, although not necessarily the best launch that there's ever been, has kind of proven the power of the person, the power of being able to influence people. For those people who don't know, Hamster Combat is a very simple game, which your 3-year-old kid or your 95-year-old grandma could be able to play. Literally pick up and you tap a button to be able to upgrade your hamster, but you're earning points that can then be airdrops. But also you can get more points by sharing Twitter posts, sharing all sorts of other things. And this has allowed Hamster Combat to grow to around 300 million users within the first 6 weeks. It had the fastest growing YouTube channel of all time, which is pretty painful considering having spent a lot of time making a YouTube channel that's nowhere near as successful as that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the power of interaction and things like that, I think, is really important. I think maybe these traditional platforms, the likes of Twitter and stuff, I can see maybe integrating into a SocialFi blockchain environment. Ton, we're already sort of starting to see it with the Telegram wallet integrated into the Telegram app. It's very easy to use. But anything really that's going to bring people into crypto who don't really know that they're in crypto is where you want to be looking. So, for example, with video games, people don't know that they're buying crypto, that it's on the blockchain. It's just better technology. Okay, so I saw Alex Becker talking about this. He's saying that basically it's just better code. You're using it. You don't know that the tokens and things that you're buying are on the blockchain. You're just buying them to interact with the game, like you might do on another video game. And this is where kind of the mass adoption piece comes in. So, yeah, I think you've lived in China. The WeChat app, which you have over here. If Twitter sort of started to integrate into a WeChat type everything app where you could pay for stuff, You can book your flights, you can book holidays, and you can earn rewards for sharing reviews and everything else. This seems like the kind of the way that things are heading.
If you understand truly what ownership and Web3 and NFTs are doing for video games, you can't be bearish on it, because at the end of the day, it's going to allow you to own your progress, own your character, own your whatever you want to buy in-game things, which means you can sell, you can gift, you can do whatever you want. It's all great. You can even play to earn or play and earn. It's just early, right? And they are trying to figure it out, how the ecosystem is going to work, how to burn the tokens, how to reward people. So at some point, through trial and error, someone is going to get it right. By the way, there is 4.4 billion people today. They make less than $10 a day, right? So when these industries are going to come in and it's going to provide some people like a passive income or active income, whatever you want to call it, play and earn income, this is going to work, not just for people in Europe, US, Middle East, but for people they have maybe in Philippines or they have a lower income. They will play because they're playing anyway. Like you said, on your phone, you can download a bunch of games today, right? And you pay them from the Apple Store, you download them. So wait until Tony is going to onboard millions of people in their ecosystem and you play the hamster combat or whatever it might be. You're playing, having fun, and maybe make a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there. I think it's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm co-founded a project that was basically built around the kind of the tap game ecosystem, but it's now a fun universal basic income ecosystem. So effectively, you play games in order to be able to earn points. You can then go and use these in the casino to kind of increase your value, or maybe not. And then also you can kind of invite other people into the ecosystem and earn points yourself that turn into airdrops. Also from this, there's going to be a DEX, there's going to be a launch pad on the back end so that people within the ecosystem are going and sharing information about the projects that we're doing, that we're launching, and they can go and invest, maybe $1 or $2 or $3 as a pre-sale into a project that maybe on launch does like a 10x or a 50x, and gives people around the world, this kind of level playing field where they're able to interact with these different ecosystems. So yeah, absolutely a big believer in that particular stuff. If you guys want to check it out, it's called Tap Goat now. It's about to go through a little bit of a rebrand away from the tap game stuff, but that's I'm a big believer in the social-fi and kind of gaming niches.
I mean, I had a chat with Yatsu, Animoca brand, of course, co-founder, and we had a good chat. I'm super bullish in Web3. I lived the old web kind of moment from the 90s to wherever we are now, and I can see that from a company perspective. Imagine when companies, and they will, I believe 100%, start rewarding their users. If you share a post about an hotel, you get points. This is going to happen. Like, people think, oh, Web3 is dead because we've seen a bunch of monkeys as NFTs failed or sold for millions and now gone to nothing, even though I think they'll go back up again. But that's not what the technology has to offer. This is just the tip of the iceberg, right? Same as internet back in the days. I remember there was nothing besides like an HTML page with a spinning 3D object. And I was thinking, oh, maybe one day people are going to shop online and buy things. I mean, now there is an app for everything, especially in Dubai. People are super spoiled. You don't even go to the gas station. You can tap on the app and people are coming to your garage and put the petrol in the car. So at some point, people are going to be onboarded into an ecosystem because it's convenient, because everyone else is doing it, because they get rewarded. And less you know, little you know, and everyone is going to be massively onboarded. And there's going to be so many layers. It's just early, I think. So I don't know if you agree.
It's incredibly early, right? And I think people's problem nowadays is we're all incredibly impatient. We have already so many kind of good things, like you talk about being in Dubai and all these like amazing things that you have in Dubai, and the rest of the world like developing at different rates still has like lots of different amazing things. We all play on mobile phones. We all expect like instant transactions. Instantly, I want to press a YouTube video and be able to watch it. I remember when I first started using the internet, and it would like take something like 4 or 5 hours to download a song for like from iTunes or whatever it was. Obviously, so yeah, I think as a kind of a whole, we've made ourselves incredibly impatient. If you look at how fast the progress is right now in blockchain tech, is absolutely ludicrous. I think some of the technology that's coming out right now is going to get adopted in a very big way. I think DePIN is probably one of the areas that I think is one of the most interesting in terms of its potential. And there's a bunch of different ways in which DePIN works. So, for example, when you go on a holiday and you haven't got like 4G or 5G for to use the internet, and you're trying to find a cafe. It's happened to me once in Dubai not that long ago. You're then like, there's all these people around me. I wish someone could just share their like data with me. And this is one thing that Deepin is going to be able to do. You're going to be able to share your excess data when you're not using it back into the network, and you're going to be able to earn money for doing that. And then someone else who is in need of using your data will be able to access that data because you've got someone close by who they can use it for. And there's so many other ways that it's being decentralized. Same way as Airbnb. Basically, I know it's not a blockchain company, but Airbnb decentralized hotels and decentralized kind of travel accommodation, in the same way that Uber decentralized taxis. And it's been so beneficial. But once this gets onto a blockchain and you start to take out the requirement for a big company in the middle that takes 50% of the money from one side and the other, then things get even more exciting, and the possibilities even better. And the quality of life for people, I think, should start to improve. We have the opportunity to earn more. We have the opportunity to spend less because the services are that much reduced, and just taking out all the kind of the big monopoly middlemen in the space.
I strongly believe the internet is missing a currency, right? Like if you think about the whole evolution of internet and how much we've seen, so much happen. I remember the days where there wasn't even Google. We had Alta Vista, we had Netscape. It was a completely different landscape. I had to pay so much money to be, quote, connected into the internet. My mom could not use the phone at the same time. It was a very different space. And I was super excited about this, thinking, wow, this is going to go to a point where maybe we'll be able to connect faster, cheaper, and things are going to change. And a few years later, boom. And like you said, it's exponential, right? So we're now missing a layer, I think, which is payments on top of this network. And people are going to build on top of each other. If you think about TCP/IP and all the protocols we've seen so far, SMTP for the emails and IRC for the chat kind of back in the days, people have built a ton of things on top of these things. So God knows what people are going to build on top of Ethereum, Solana, and those ecosystems, right? They offer a huge variety of options for entrepreneurs to provide services. And like you said, you'll be able maybe to rent data, to rent things, and it's going to happen peer-to-peer without central authorities, depending on the blockchain you build on, of course. But the whole thing is super exciting. And unless you have your mind into it, people have no idea it's coming, as well as internet. Like we are saying now, people don't have to understand how the Wi-Fi protocol works. They just buy the iPhone and they tap into the name and put the password. That's it. So at some point, there's going to be apps that'll integrate automatically your wallet, crypto wallet, within maybe even your bank account. I mean, there is, I think, 12 stablecoin on Tether. There is 12 used on different chains for stablecoins. I think what we're missing desperately is interoperability. And I think we will be seeing soon banks thinking about maybe Tether, maybe Coinbase, stablecoin, USDC, accepting them in. And that will open up the door to the 98% of the people that are not in crypto now. I don't know if you agree here.
I think one of the biggest issues in crypto, and I watched a speech or an interview from the CEO of Aptos. I can't remember his name, but it was a great interview, and he was basically talking about, so the Aptos team originally came from Facebook or Meta, where they were building a blockchain called DM or Libra 2.0, I believe. And those went off and created Sui, and they also created Aptos, which are two big proof of stake blockchains. They're obviously booming at the moment and catching a lot of attention. Basically says, if you're new to crypto, you'll understand this. We've all been new to crypto at some point. Crypto is a really quite confusing and difficult place to navigate. As soon as you've found the coin that you like the look of, after all the research that you've done, you're then like, well, where do I buy it? And then you go across to like a MetaMask, and it's like, well, you need to record this seed phrase, and you need to, you put your Ethereum on the Binance Smart Chain when you should have put it into Ethereum, and all these different like things that make it just so clunky and so difficult. I don't think that we're going to see anything in terms of mass adoption in any way, or this becoming the general use case until it becomes as easy as picking up and going on Instagram, or picking up your phone and going on whatever. But you got to understand that these apps like Instagram and Facebook, and they all kind of sprung from the same kind of origins that were around 2002, 2003. Facebook's older than that. Younger. 2006 is when I first used Facebook. It might be older, I assume it is. But 2006, Facebook first comes out. I don't know if you ever remembered the first Facebook. The one you can use now is so much better. And then you get all these other apps that come from the same team that built Facebook. They've had 15, 20 odd years to be able to build these applications. And then now just at the stage where they're like seamless to be able to use. And some apps are still poor, right? I do think that the interoperability is a big part because it just adds to the complexity of using crypto. Anything that is basically going to completely streamline and simplify everything you're doing, besides the research, is where I think the biggest gains will come from. Identifying what they look like might be tricky, but yeah, interoperability platforms and that's a very important place to be looking.
If you had, let's say, $10,000 and you were about to go into the market now, what would you buy now?
Okay, so I think it's important to hold a bit of Bitcoin now, because I think anyone who's new to crypto should understand that Bitcoin is your hedge against the performance of the rest of the portfolio. Like we already said, it's a bigger market cap, it's more stable. So if you hit the top of the bull market, Bitcoin will of course come down, but it won't come down anywhere like as hard as some of the altcoins. So it makes sense to keep your 10% in Bitcoin and move this in and out. If the market is where we are right now, where we're looking into a big altcoin season at some point soon, because the altcoins are very low compared to where Bitcoin is, I would say maybe you could reduce it to 5%. And then once the market's hot and the altcoins are running hot, you can move back towards like a bigger Bitcoin majority. The best way to identify what a good blockchain is to invest in isn't to be like, oh, this has better tech and this has better tech. And this will get you in a big trap, because lots of people out there, for some weird reason, are very closely associated with blockchains. They get very emotionally involved, and it's like, I'm a Solana guy, and they're like, I'm a Sui guy or a Casper person. You shouldn't be anything. Okay, it doesn't matter. Don't be attached to these things. They're just vehicles to make money in. The simplest thing to do for layer ones is to go to a website called DeFiLlama.com, which is a great website, and use this website to identify the volumes, transactions, and the total value locked on any individual chain. Ultimately, it could be the best product in the world, but if no one's using it, then you don't want to be invested in it. You want to be invested in projects that people are using. Right now, lots of people have been going to Sui, and Sui went up a lot. And now Aptos, very similar tech, perhaps slightly more geared towards kind of higher specification applications, etc., is now capturing a lot of that volume. And I do think that Aptos is a good layer one to be holding. Sui as well, still doing very well. These as layer ones. Another layer one you could consider after recent, off the grid gaming launch, Avalanche. If Avalanche starts to capture gaming projects, it will pick up the volume. Just use DeFi Llama, look at the volume, look at the TVL, and buy your blockchain based on these different things. So yeah, that should make up a larger portion, perhaps, of your portfolio, maybe a 5-10%, because it's a bigger market cap. Then you can go down the list. You can go to AI coins, the likes of AIOZ. I talked about Talbot Tensor, basically very closely linked to the performance of AI. When AI and NVIDIA are out pumping the news about how AI is making all this money, the AI projects tend to run strongly. Gaming, we've already talked about Beam. We talked about Superverse. Games, I mean, Off the Grid's going to launch soon, but it's going to probably launch with quite a big market cap. There's another one that I invested in called Carrot, Karrat, recently, and one called Octo Gaming, which is on Solana. And only because this game, again, this is what should be looking in every crypto project, has something like 100,000 active users, like 300, over like 1 million active users, 300,000 downloads in the last month, backed by the Solana Foundation, quite a small market cap. People are using it, whether the games are amazing or not. People are using it, and that's going to give it value. Then go after the real world assets deep in. But I can't emphasize enough the importance of finding things that are actually being used. Don't just like sit there and be like, oh, well, this sounds like an amazing project, and well, wouldn't it be amazing if everyone had the ability to do this? And then actually, if you think about it, you don't think that, because you don't need the ability to do that. It's an unnecessary thing. And if you don't understand what a project does because it's too complicated, then all the other people who are new to crypto, who you need to invest in projects to push the prices up, also don't know what that does, and are not going to be attracted to buy it. So go after the gaming's a popular one for that reason. Stay away from meme coins right now. I think they're higher risk than they are reward. You can still make money in meme coins if you're very smart about it.
Nice, thank you for that. By the way, I have next to no knowledge in altcoins. As you know, I'm a Bitcoin guy, but I like to have a portion of my portfolio that I use to speculate and just go to the quote casino. But what would be your strategy in taking profits? Because I don't think most of those tokens are going to be around in 10 years, or maybe some. But would you sell when they double, half? How are you going to play it?
When it comes to those layer ones, and I've talked about this on my channel quite a lot. So recently we saw a big push in SUI. I identified that SUI was seeing a lot of volume and TVL increasing. SUI then got a lot of exposure. Typically is the case every time a coin starts to run up, everyone will look in that direction. If the rest of the market isn't really pumping that much, in the same time that Bitcoin's gone up like $2,000 or something, SUI's gone up like 130%. That means that SUI's probably running a bit too hot for what it should be doing. Okay. And it's not because it's the best coin, it's because people are looking towards it, people are using it, and then it gets the kind of the hype and attention, which drives it over the top. Every time that the hype and attention arrives, it drives it too hot. So if the rest of the market is fairly static and you're in a coin that's run really hot, always take profits from it. If it's done a 2 or a 3x and everything around it hasn't done much, take profits from it, and then you can reassess. You can either move that money back into Bitcoin. If you've made a lot of money on like a DEX or some sort of platform that's on SUI or whatever the blockchain is, then move the money back into SUI, because SUI will likely be more stable. Okay. The smaller the market cap, the bigger the chance it has of coming down quicker as well. So again, small market cap coins that have pumped very hot, then maybe look to take profits. It's the key isn't necessarily on how much you make or anything else. It's about understanding the timing and understanding why that coin is going up. So for example, in one of my groups, people are talking about a coin called Xborg today, which is a great project, interesting project. And I was like, why is this gaming platform gone up 3 or 4x in the last day or so and everything else is flat? What do you reckon the reason is? Do you know?
Someone tweeted something about it, or someone said something publicly about the project, right?
Yeah, I mean, so Alex Becker made a video about it. And in
Yeah.
fact, Alex Becker didn't even really shill it. He just said, this is a very interesting kind of gaming project with like a very small market cap. It goes up like 3 or 4x because he shouted it out. It can be a great project, but if it over pumps too quickly because of some catalyst like that, then you need to take profits on it, because the chances are that it will start to come down to its equilibrium. Same as like when you throw a stone in a pond, the river, the waves kick up and then eventually it will settle back to normal. If the rest of the market, however, is all pumping at the same time and it does a 3x, then maybe you're good enough to stay in there. But just to understand whether or not that coin on any particular day deserves to be pumping that hard. And if you can't really find a reason that it means it should be, then maybe start to take some profits on it and move it to something else that's...
What's your view on Ethereum? Because nowadays saying that Ethereum is going to pump is super controversial. I mean, I see everywhere on X, I just can't call it X, whatever, Twitter, X, whatever, Elon Musk platform. People are selling their Ethereum for Solanas, for other layer ones. Do you still think it is going to do well for this cycle? What's your view here?
It's a very good question. It's a very difficult one to answer. I think the layer one ecosystems, they move around so quickly. Okay. So I think that's again why you shouldn't be too attached to any particular project. You should be very flexible and understand the data and understand why things are moving in one direction or another. Right now, we've seen Solana basically outstrip Ethereum for volumes. Like the fees and things on Ethereum are so much higher, so the revenue on Ethereum is still incredibly high. But Solana is completely demolished Ethereum in terms of like active users and volume and things like that. It might be for whatever reason you want, but there's so many now other layer ones that are coming in and starting to take a piece of that pie, like the ones I've mentioned today. And this is like problematic, I think, for Ethereum and whether or not Ethereum can really show the growth that everyone's anticipating. But one thing I did see, and this is kind of an interesting one to discuss, and it's the CEO of BlackRock, who's called Larry Fink, who was saying about he made an announcement about how Ethereum was so undervalued and all these things were going to be built on Ethereum. And as soon as you see anything like this in the news and media, be extremely cautious, because there's all this like mind games being played by the big banks and investors who are investing. But it does feel like that's potentially trying to manipulate people to get back into Ethereum. I'm sure there's a huge amount of money in institutions invested in Ethereum, and they'll do their best to try and manipulate the market and push it back. higher. If that happens, Ethereum will still see good upside, but I don't think it's going to be... To be honest, I think if you're going to have an investment, I would say that Solana, not financial advice, of course, Solana would be a stronger investment than maybe backing Ethereum right now, based on the fact that one is accumulating more and more users. It's much easier and faster to use. It makes more sense.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. That's why I don't put my hands much into altcoins. I'm really happy when I have someone like you who comes in and you know your stuff. I'm a Bitcoin old dog. I have one trick in my bag, and it works because I have to do literally nothing. But I have a small bag I like to play with here and there, some altcoins. But I probably hold maybe 3, maybe 4 coins on top of my Bitcoin. Some of them are old school, like I said, Chainlink. A big fan of Chainlink. I have some Ethereum, but Solana, of course, I do have a bag of Solana. It's coming in aggressively. Like you said, maybe because of the memes, it doesn't actually matter. It's creating an ecosystem, it's creating users, it's creating wallets. It's faster, cheaper. So it's going to be an interesting one. Definitely. I still feel maybe because I don't know, old school or I don't have enough knowledge in the matter, but I think ETH is going to do extremely well. I think it's going to do well. Maybe crazy to say, but I'm expecting Solana to get in between $800 and $1,000 for the end of the cycle, which is talking about what, 8x from where we are now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you would agree, but there is still a humongous run from when it comes to altcoin to come in. So I don't think it's too late if you want to jump into altcoins, like you said. I would also say in advice, even though it's not my territory, because like I said, I'm not an altcoin expert, but I would say keep your portfolio small. Just don't invest in 300 coins unless, like Peter, you are this thing every day. Try to keep it simple, especially because if you invest $50 on 100 project, even if they double, you're not going to make much. It's better to stay, nice and small and agile and invest a little bit more, maybe perhaps, so when it double is more consistent. I don't know if you agree here.
Yeah, definitely don't go into too many coins. Also, I think you don't have to pick a coin for the entire bull run. So, have 5 or 6 coins right now. And just watch kind of how they go. Continue to upgrade and learn your skills. And once you make more money with these 5 coins, so if you've got, I don't know, $100 or $500, whatever it is, and you maybe do like a 3 or a 4x, it's much kind of easier to maybe spread it a bit thinner if you've got $2,000 now rather than having $500. So yeah, anticipate that the bull market moves in different ways. Bitcoin tends to go first. You then tend to get large cap coins moving next. So it's better now to start to look exposure towards the big market cap coins, because you're more likely to see guaranteed returns. I don't want to use that term, but more guaranteed returns, a 3 or 4x over the next 6 months. And then once you've got that money and everyone else starts to ape into altcoins, then you can go altcoin shopping. But if you go too early into altcoins right now, like small cap alts, and you're wrong, you'll end up with the same money you've got now in 6 months' time, and then you're fighting a battle throughout. So go for a few large caps right now. Start to diversify after that into some smaller caps, and then start to, as the market heats up and continues to heat, start to go back towards safety like Bitcoin and Tether, when everyone else is continuing to go more and more degenerate and buying pictures of rocks and monkeys and everything else.
I love this. Peter, thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed our conversation. Really appreciate having you on the show today.
Thank you very much, man. Really pleasure to be here. Some great questions. Good to chat. See you later.
Fantastic. Guys, as always, in the comments down below, you'll find Peter's channel. Go and give it a follow. And see you on the next one.